In this video, we're going to look at how to do sums in standard form, or sums with numbers that are in standard form. There's an example for you here. You may have to do a multiplying sum with two numbers which are both in standard form. So I've got 2.3 times 10 to the power of 5 times 2.1 times 10 to the power of 4. And we're going to do this without a calculator. First thing you can do, if you're timesing, you can write the numbers down in any order you want. So first of all, I'm going to write down the normal numbers, and then I'm going to write down the 10 to the power numbers. So I've brought my normal numbers together and my 10 to the power numbers together. Now I need to do 2.3 times 2.1. And I'm going to do this first of all using the grid method. I'm going to do first of all 23 times by 21, ignoring the decimal points. I'm going to do my 23 and my 21 in this multiplication grid. 2 2s are 4, and I have 2 noughts, so that's 400. 20 times by 3 is 60. 20 times by 1 is 20. 1 times by 3 is 3. If I add the numbers inside the grid up, 460, 483. 483. So I've got 23 times by 21 is 483. The question I was trying to do was 2.3 and 2.1. And I've underlined here two digits that were after the decimal point. So for the answer I need, two of these need to be after the decimal point. So that will be 4.83 will be the answer to that sum. So if I look at the line I've got here, I've just worked out that the 2.3 times 2.1 is 4.83. And I've still now got to deal with the 10 to the power of 5 times by the 10 to the power of 4. But if I look at this bit here, using my laws of indices, if the big numbers are the same and I'm multiplying, all I have to do is add the powers together. So 10 to the power of 5 times 10 to the power of 4 is 10 to the power of 9. So there's my answer. 4.83 times 10 to the power of 9. All done without a calculator. If I look at a second example, so another example, 5 times 10 to the power of 6 times by 6 times 10 to the power of 3. You don't need the brackets here, but often you will find brackets in these questions. I'll do what I did last time. I'll write down the normal numbers first. 5 and 6 are being times together. Then 10 to the power of 6 and 10 to the power of 3 are being times together. 5 6s are 30. If I times those together, I will just be adding the powers. So I get 10 to the power of 9. 30 times by 10 to the power of 9. And it's very tempting to think that's your final answer, but actually it isn't. Because in standard form, this number here has to be between 1 and 9, and 30 isn't. 30 is too big. I have to change that number to 3.0. And if I make this number smaller, to compensate, I need to make the power bigger. So if I've made this number smaller, by dividing it by 10, I need an extra 10 here. So what I do is I add 1 onto that power. So I will get 3.0 times 10 to the power of 10. You could, if you want to, miss out the 0.0 there and just write it down as 3 times 10 to the power of 10. As well as doing timesing questions, you can also do dividing questions. If we look at 8 times by 10 to the power of 5, divided by 2 times 10 to the power of 3. If you're doing a question like this again, you can split it up. You've got 8, which is being divided by 2. That's the normal part, if you like. 8 is divided by 2. This 10 bit, you've got 10 to the power of 5, which is being divided by 10 to the power of 3. But these bits are being multiplied together. These multiply signs you can just sort of put in there. And now you can think of this as a question split up like this. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 10 to the power of 5 divided by 10 to the power of 3. Because we're dividing, I do a taking away with the powers. That's 10 to the power of 2. Put that times sign in. There's my answer. Just check that that is between 1 and 10, and it is. So there's my answer to that question in standard form. If you're asked to do an addition or a subtraction in standard form, for example, if you're asked to do 8 times by 10 to the 5 plus 2 times by 10 to the power of 3, you can't do any special standard form tricks if you're adding or if you're taking away. The only way to do this really is to write both of these numbers out as normal numbers. That 8 times 10 to the power of 5 is 8 with 5 zeros after it. And the 2 times 10 to the power of 3 is 2 with 3 zeros after it. So I should have had 5 zeros, I've only got 4, so I'll put another one in. So I've got 800,000 and 2,000, and if I add those together I get 802,000. Then I can change that back into a standard form number. I will write 8.02, ignoring the noughts at the end, making sure this number here is between 1 and 10. Then I put my times by 10, and the decimal point must have been here, and I've moved it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So the answer to the question here is 8.02 times 10 to the power of 5. But if you're doing any addition or subtraction with standard form, you can't do anything clever. You just need to write each number out as a normal number and then do your sum. You can then convert it into a standard form number again at the end.